In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a quote using the roofing components that we've created in the previous tutorial video. If you haven't watched that video, I suggest doing so. If not, you should have some default roofing components that you can use if you selected roofing as your default industry at sign up. Make sure you've got roofing saved as your default industry in account settings. This is important because the calculations for rafter and hip and valley pitch are all quite different in roofing. Now let's create a new quote. Go to the Quotes button, click New Quote, which takes you to the Create New Quote page. Ensure that you've got roofing as your industry, select your roofing components collection, and name it. You can name this anything. I'll just name it John Smith. I would suggest using an address or a lot number or something associated to the job, but you can change this later if you need to. Select your measurement system. We've got metric, imperial, and imperial roofing squares. We'll be using metric. Don't worry about a quote template for this tutorial. Quote templates are another tutorial, but in short, a quote template pre-populates all the components you want to use and is faster when you do a lot of similar roofs that use the same components. Entry mode. We're going to use component quote, but you could use digital measure or standard quote. Digital measure allows you to upload a plan and measure each area or length for each component using the digital measure tool. But now select component quote. This entry mode is best if you've already been to site and measured the roof, or you might have printed off the plans and measured the roof plan. Either way, you already have all your areas and lengths, and you're ready to transfer them into QuoteCore Plus and let the system calculate and add pitch allowance, price, labor, and waste based on your saved component settings. The first thing we're going to do is create the first roof area. Let's call it main roof. And you can add the pitch, 25 degrees. Let's make it 10 meters wide by 20 meters long. We'll just keep it simple. You could add 3 or 4 other areas. Maybe the roof shape is not just one regular rectangle or square. It might be an irregular shape made up by multiple areas. You can enter those multiple areas and it will combine the area into one total. So just to give an example, let's make another 10 by 10 meter area, and you can add that, and now you've got a bigger total area squared. But we'll delete that for now because we're going to create 3 different roof areas. You can have as many or as little areas as you need. Let's create a lean-to roof, and we can apply a different roofing material to this. We'll make this a 10-degree pitch, and we will make it 10 meters wide by 5 meters long. Now you've got a separate second roof. Let's also add a garage roof as a separate roof that we will do in another roofing material. We'll make this a very low pitch, let's say 3 degrees, and we'll make it 5 meters by 7 meters long. Now each of these roof areas get their own meters squared or area squared, and up here is the total area squared. There's no item cost or labor yet because we haven't applied any of our components. You could just have one roof area, or you could have 10 different roof areas, or you could have one roof area that has 10 different areas attached to that roof area. Next, we'll go to components, and you can see now on the components page, each roof area has its own components section. Before we add our components, if you had measured your roof using our digital measure tool, all the components you measured in the digital measure canvas would be automatically populated in here with the correct auto-adjusted lengths or the areas that you measured during that session, including pitch allowance and waste where needed, as well as all the pricing. But we're going to do it manually, so this is where you will need the rest of your measurements handy, either from a plan or actual measurements. And I'll show you how you can toggle between those 2 measurements soon. First, let's add some components. On the main roof, let's add some underlay first, and I'll just go through and add all the components that we want to use. Let's do asphalt shingles as the main roof material component. Let's add some hip flashings. Let's add a ridge flashing, and that'll do for the main roof. For the lean-to roof, let's use the standing seam long run component, and we'll add 2 barge cap flashings, 1 for each end. Now let's add a separate garage roof. Let's make the garage roof TPO membrane material, And we'll say this garage also has a parapet wall. So we'll add a parapet cap component. So now we've got our components, and obviously you could add many more components if you needed them. You could have spouting, you could have anything. Actually, let's add spouting too. Now you can easily add your own area too. You can add the entire area squared here, or you can add a width and a length to calculate the area squared, or you can use the actual roof area that we measured or we added earlier. We'll do that because it's quicker. And now it auto adds that exact area value, applies the waste. I believe we made the unit pricing for underlay in rolls, so this would be 5 rolls of 50 square meters. That's the system doing its job, rounding up to 5 rolls, which would in theory be 250 square meters. Adds the pricing, labor, and item price. If you already had the actual roofing area, including the pitch allowance, click the Actual tab and you simply add that area or the width and length. This figure avoids adding pitch calculation, but it will still add your waste value to the final amount. We won't do that this time though. So go back to Plan tab. Done. Now Shingles is another area-based component, and we'll use the Quick option. Fill that, again, pre-populates everything. I think our Shingles component item pricing is in packs, so you've got 13 packs that'll be rounding up, and there's your price, including labor. Hip flashing. So this is a little different, linear measurement, and it does use the hip and valley pitch calculation. Now test an actual versus plan measurement. Let's use an example here. Let's say there's 4 hips at 5 meters. It's not just adding the waste, because the waste I believe was 250 mil or 0.25 meters. So you've got an extra 2 meters or more being added. That accounts for the pitch. Now we can add another 5-meter run, but I'll show you what happens when you go to actual. So let's hit the Actual tab, and now our program is assuming you've already measured or you already know the actual or real length of this hip. And let's just show the exact same amount. It should only add the waste. So there we go. You got 250 mils for the waste, but it hasn't added the extra length accounting for pitch. So in this case, you might be able to work this out. 7.7 minus 0.25. The length, in theory, needs to be 7.45. And now you're back at the correct measurement. So that is the actual length of the hip, according to the system. Perhaps you did a site measure, so you're certain it's the correct length, and it's correctly added the waste there. Now that's how using actual versus plan works for hip flashings. It's the same for area, it's the same for rafter length. Ridge flashings, these are pretty simple. Let's say there's one ridge at 5 meters. This should just add waste because it's not pitch affected. Spouting. Now let's just assume that there is 2 lengths of spouting. Again, it's only going to add what waste you put per length. If you went to actual, it's not going to change anything because there is no difference. This component is not pitch affected. Let's move now into the lean-to roof standing seam, same deal. Just add the area, but maybe you got sent new plans and this area is now 60 meters squared. This will add 60 meters squared as the actual, but it'll also add waste, which I think is 5% for this area-based calculation. And there we go, 60 meters squared. And you can delete things, you can add things, you can edit things. There's a lot of flexibility here. I'm going through this very slowly just to show you how everything works. Now barge flashings use a similar to the hip flashings up here, but they use the rafter pitch calculation. So we'll add 2 barges to our lean-to roof, one either side. We made that area 5 by 10 meters, I believe. And this will add the 10 degrees and the waste. Add 2 of these. Now back onto the garage. Same deal, we'll just use the area we calculated. Again, we can do an actual parapet cap flashings. Obviously, you can add a lot more than this. But now we've got our main roof components. We've got our lean-to components. Now you might get halfway through and realize that there is an item that you haven't created. You need to quote an item you haven't created a component for yet. So you need to create Smart Component on the fly. You can do that easily. You create the name, the type of component, main, all of the stuff that we showed you in the components tutorial applies in this. And then you just simply save it to the library you're using for this quote. And then you can add the lengths, areas, or the quantities as needed. That's it for the components phase of the quote builder. Let's go down and hit the Extras tab. Now, we briefly touched on extras in the components tutorial, but this is essentially just a way to separate main components from extras on the quote, and I'll show you that soon. But we've got two extras components saved, and you can create a new one exactly like I just showed you in the Components tab if you need. We'll add a delivery fee, but you could add anything here. It could be a site measure, it could be a site cleanup, it could be extra delivery fee. There's just really nothing you couldn't add here. And there we go, another one. We'll leave it at 1 just so I can show you on the quote how it looks. So here is now your review stage. You've got your main roof, which is in asphalt shingles. It shows you everything, your item cost, your labor cost, the total, the quantities. So obviously here we're seeing 28.3. There's been 4 lengths, so there's 4 hips and shows the total length. These are in their purchasable or units, whether it's 13 boxes of shingles or pallets of shingles, and then you've got 5 rolls of underlay. But you can see everything, and you can see here the extras delivery fee. Now this next section, profit margin, is key. We would suggest pricing everything in components at cost, even the labor, because it allows you to tightly price jobs and then simply adjust your margins here. So we'll put, let's say, 25%. And you can also do labor, you can do one or the other, you can do both. And down here it shows the item margin and the labor margin amounts, the total margin, and then the total altogether. So once you're happy, you simply click Confirm Quote, and this takes you to the quote summary page. On this page you can do a lot of things. You can go back, you can edit this quote, which clicking this edit button will take you to the beginning of the quote builder flow, where you've got your roof areas, components, your extras, and you can edit everything, change everything, adjust your margin, save those changes. You can then leave notes, you can create a customer quote, labor sheets, you can download the quote summary, you can create follow-ups once you create a customer quote. Just simple, click customer quote, and then you save. We've already done this in another tutorial, so I won't go through the whole flow. Please check that video to learn more. Now you can send the quote, which brings up the ability to send via QuoteCore Plus, or you can copy the URL link and send it yourself via your own email. And we just got the warning there, making sure you don't send the quote with the margin showing. That wouldn't be ideal. Lucky the system warns you. That is how to create a component quote using roofing components.